Let us now look at the second essay by Francis Bacon of travel, which is again prescribed for the students of BA Part 1, English Literature, Paper 2. The summary of the essay. Bacon begins the essay by arguing that the young soul learns a lot when he travels around unknown places. However, one must seek some knowledge, particularly learning the language of the place where he intended to travel. He learns a lot from the environment even before he has started going to school. By traveling, the process of learning is enhanced and the child acquires awareness very early. However, one must seek some knowledge, particularly learning the language of the place where he intended to travel. If he does not have sufficient knowledge, he must not visit that place. Bacon further adds that it is often desirable for the young ones to travel around the world in the company of a knowledgeable person or tutor, for instance, under the supervision of a person who knows the foreign language and has been there before. The tutor, by virtue of his knowledge and experience, must be able to guide the young traveler about where to go and what is worth seeing. On the other hand, without a knowledgeable tutor, the young traveler might fail to perceive the worth and significant things while traveling to new places. Bacon furthermore says that it is a strange thing that while traveling across the sea, the man observes nothing much but the blue water and the never ending sky. However, when traveling on the land, there is so much to observe that the traveler finds it hard to note down each and every detail. He should maintain a diary to note down the interesting things and events. Here, Bacon suggests the travel about what things they should mention in their diaries while traveling. These include the courts of prince, especially the reception they give to the ambassadors, the royal courts of justice, the scene of hearing plea from accused, the churches and monasteries and their way of living, the walls and fortifications, the country's ancient buildings and ruins, libraries, colleges, the ways lectures are delivered, the recreational areas, whatsoever that appeals to one's sight and are memorable. As for social events are concerned, like marriages, funeral, feasts, public execution, and celebration of victories, they should not be neglected and ignored. However, there is no need to mention them in a travel diary. Bacon continues the essay by guiding the travelers about some do's and don'ts so that they take maximum benefit out of it. First of all, the young traveler must have some basic knowledge before starting traveling. Second, the young traveler should have a knowledgeable tutor who has found knowledge about the place. Who has profound, meaning deep knowledge about the place. Third, the tutor must carry some catalogue or book along with him that can help them in the foreign country. Fourth, the traveler must have a diary in which he can note down all the worth mentioning things. Fifth, the traveler should not stay long in one place more than necessary. If in case he stays longer, he must change the place in the town in order to get maximum exposure. Sixth, the traveler should not choose to halt with the people of his own country. Rather, he must choose to stay with people from a different country. Last but not the least, the traveler must obtain and carry along with him the letters of introduction from the nobility of his own place for the one he is visiting to. This will result in ease in traveling. As far as the people whose acquaintance should be sought while traveling include secretaries and ambassadors. These people can offer help in visiting particular places, in gathering information, and availing resources that one might need. To Bacon, the traveler should always avoid engaging in any type of quarrel with local people. Moreover, he should also be careful about the company of mistresses and quarrelsome people. These people might grind him in their fights. Bacon, like most of his essays, ends this essay with advice. He says that when the traveler returns to his own country, he should not forget the country he traveled to, especially the people who helped him during his travel. He must establish a contact with them through letters. Furthermore, he must not show off his knowledge and awareness he acquired during traveling, but he should act well mannered and disciplined to reflect the new wisdom he acquired during traveling. He should not exaggerate the stories and scenes that he encounters during his travel. Rather, he should be more concise and factual. Lastly, after traveling the other country, a person should not forget the customs and traditions of his own native land while acquiring the customs and traditions of the country he visited. He should rather adopt some good things from the foreign country. Line by line explanation of the essay of Travel by Francis Bacon. The text. Travel in the younger sort is a part of education, in the elder a part of experience. He that travelleth into a country before he hath some entrance into the language goeth to school and not to travel. These lines mean when a young child travels around in alien places, he learns a lot from the sight and sound around him. In the process, his awareness grows and his learning process is accelerated, meaning increased. So, travel for a young child has good educational value. So, the countryside becomes a school for him, although in an informal way. The text. That young men travel under some tutor or grave servant, I allow well, so that he be such a one that hath the language and hath been in the country before, whereby he may be able to tell them what things are worthy to be seen in the country where they go, what acquaintances they are to seek, what exercises or discipline the place yieldeth. The meaning is, a youngster travelling to an unknown place under the watchful eye of a knowledgeable chaperon is always desirable. Chaperon means escort. By virtue of the knowledge and experience, the chaperon can guide the young traveller where to go, what to see, and the type of people to befriend. The able guide can also tell the youngster about the pastime, hobbies, and crafts the places are famous for. Text. For else young men shall go hooded and look abroad little. It is a strange thing that in sea voyages, where there is nothing to be seen but sky and sea, men should make diaries. But in land travel, wherein so much is to be observed, for the most part they omit it, as if chance were fitter to be registered than observation. Without the company of a guide, he will fail to observe the important and interesting things in the new places. While on a voyage in the seafarer gets to see nothing other than the vast expanse of blue water and the unending sky above. In such a case, the voyager should maintain a travel diary. When traveling over land, there is an overwhelming abundance of new sights and sounds and myriad, which means countless things to observe. People generally fail to keep note of every detail of what they come across. The text. Let diaries therefore be brought in use. The things to be seen and observed are the courts of princes, especially when they give audience to ambassadors, the courts of justice, while they sit and hear causes, and so of consistories ecclesiastic, the churches and monasteries, with the monuments which are therein extant, the walls and fortification of cities and towns, and so the heavens and harbours, antiquities and ruins, libraries, colleges, disputations and lectures, where they are, shipping and navies, houses and gardens of state and pleasure, near great cities, armories, arsenals, magazines, exchanges, bourses, warehouses, exercises of horsemanship, fencing, training of soldiers, and the like, comedies, such whereunto the better sort of persons do resort, treasuries of jewels and robes, cabinets and rarities, and to conclude, whatsoever is memorable in the place where they go. Meaning, so maintaining a diary is always a good idea. In the diary, one can record his observations about the following: A. The royal courts of princes, kings, and sovereigns. He can observe the opulence, splendor, courtiers, and the practices followed in the courts. The elaborate protocol followed while formally accepting the ambassadors from other countries is worth observing and noting. B. The royal courts that here please and dispense justice also offer interesting sights. Practices followed in the Roman courts and those in the English clergy are also interesting. C. The churches, monasteries, their architectural styles offer much visual delight. It is advisable to observe and record these in the diary. D. The city walls, the fortresses, and the watchtowers that bring a city to ward off invaders are also very interesting to watch. E. The beautiful towns and harbours also deserve to be seen with observant eyes. F. The antiquities, the ruins standing at witness to past attacks of marauding invaders, marauding means attacking and looting invaders, are worth seeing minutely. G. Colleges, universities, centers of learning, town halls where debates are held, stadia, etc., bear testimony to the intellectual vigor of any society. So they should be visited too. H. Shipping facilities and naval yards are the yardsticks of a nation's maritime prowess, so they deserve to be keenly looked at. I. Public offices, buildings are the citadels of power and authority. They are deliberately built majestically to tower over other private buildings nearby. They project the state's power. Similarly, parks and recreational open spaces speak about the taste and the habits of the people where the people spend their leisure time. Their architecture reflect the aesthetic sense of the character of a race. So these public places are to be visited and keenly observed. J. Visit to the country's armory and ammunition storage facilities is quite enlightening too. K. Visits to warehouses, stock exchanges, and wholesale markets are also of good educational value. L. Seeing equestrian sports and horse rearing centers indicate the ability of the country to use horse for military and recreational purposes. Visit to opera houses shows how cultured the upper sections of the society are. N. N. Exhibition of fine jewelry, fine clothing, antiquities, etc. throws light on the wealth and taste of the people. O. In this way, one needs to visit all places of interest to bring back a treasure trove of highly rewarding information and knowledge. To continue with the text, as for triumphs, masks, feasts, weddings, funerals, capital executions, and such shows may need to be put in the mind of them, yet are they not to be neglected. Social occasions like marriages, funerals, feasts, public executions, victory celebrations, etc., are no doubt important, but they need not be documented or observed so keenly. Text: if you will have a young man put his travel into a little room, and in a short time to gather much, this you must do. First, as was said, he must have some entrance into the language before he goeth. Then he must have such a servant or tutor as knoweth the country, as was likewise said. Let him carry with him also some card or book describing the country where he travelleth, which will be a good key to his inquiry. Let him keep also a diary. Let him not stay long in one city or town, more or less as the place deserveth, but not long. Nay, when he stayeth in one city or town, let him change his lodging from one end and part of the town to another, which is a great admint of acquaintance. Let him sequester himself from the company of his countrymen, and diet in such places where there is good company of the nation where he travelleth. Let him, upon his removes from one place to another, procure recommendation to some person of quality residing in the place whither he removeth, that he may use his favour in those things he desireth to see or know. Thus he may abridge his travel with much profit. Meaning, Bacon proceeds to give some do's and don'ts for the travel expedition to yield maximum value. These are as follows. 1. The youngster has to have some basic learning before he sets out on his journey. 2. He must have a dedicated and knowledgeable guide. This man must be well conversant with the country he is visiting. 3. The guide should carry with him some books, catalogues, or brochures about the places he has in his travels. These will prove to be handy in course of the travel. 4. The learner must have a diary where he can jot down whatever he sees as he moves from place to place. 5. He should not stay more than it is necessary to stay in one place. 6. In case he stays in a city or a town for a longer duration, he must change his lodging and move to another in the other end of the town to get the maximum exposure. 7. While staying in a place, he must not choose to stay among people from his own place. Instead, he must choose to live among people of the host country so that he gets to observe their habits. 8. He must procure and carry with him letters of introduction from eminent people from his own locality to those in the places he is going to visit. This will ease travel, stay, and availability of other conveniences. Text. As for the acquaintance which is to be sought in travel, that which is most of all profitable is acquaintance with the secretaries and employed men of ambassadors. For so in travelling in one country he shall suck the experience of many. Let him also see and visit eminent persons in all kinds, which are of great name abroad, that he may be able to tell how the life agreeth with the fame. For quarrels they are with care and discretion to be avoided. They are commonly for mistresses, healths, place, and words. And let a man beware of how he keepeth company with choleric and quarrelsome persons, for they will engage him into their own quarrels. In the places where he goes, he must seek out people of eminence like ambassadors, senior bureaucrats, and other eminent people who can offer a practical help in sightseeing, gathering information, and in traveling other comforts needed during travel in a new place. And in availing, he should avoid getting into arguments, quarrels, and fights with locals. He should avoid the company of mistresses and quarrelsome people, because these are the persons who drag him to unnecessary fights and unpleasant situations. The text: When a traveller returneth home, let him not leave the countries where he had travelled altogether behind him, but maintain a correspondence by letters with those of his acquaintance which are of most worth. And let his travel appear rather in his discourse than in his apparel or gesture. Apparel means the clothes he wears. Gesture here will mean behavior. And in his discourse, let him be rather advised in his answers than forward to tell stories. And let it appear that he doth not change his country manners for those of foreign parts, but only prick in some flowers of that he had learned abroad into the customs of his own country. Meaning, on returning to his native home, he must not completely forget the people and places he has visited. He must maintain the link through correspondence with those eminent persons, men who had extended courtesy and help to him during his sojourn. His heightened knowledge and awareness acquired during the journey are not to be shown off through elaborate attire or mannerisms of the foreign lands. This might invite ridicule and derision. On the contrary, his new wisdom must reflect in his talking and lectures to his fellow men. He should be concise and factual in his accounts and not weave stories. He must not give an impression that he has forsaken his country manners and dress to adopt those of the lands he has visited. He should selectively describe all the things he has learnt abroad. Analysis of Travel by Francis Bacon is a persuasive essay in which he uses various persuasive techniques along with figurative language at different instances to support his viewpoint. Bacon opens the essay by mentioning two types of audience, the young travelers and the old traveler. However, he primarily put emphasis on the former. The tone of the author, that is Bacon, in the essay is of a proficient expert who has profound knowledge and experience of traveling. He knows what he is talking about. It seems that he has the first-hand experience of traveling, as he doesn't refer to any experienced authority but advice through his own experience. He plays the extent of his understanding and guidance repeatedly by means of the use of the lists. It shows that he has a lot of knowledge and inclusive in his board. Furthermore, he criticizes the conventional practice of noting down each and every detail in a diary and also advises the traveler to have confidence in his own mind. Bacon, by using persuasive techniques, bids useful advice to an inexperienced traveler that shows that he has the best interest of the young travelers. He concentrates on the subject. Nonetheless, his advice appears to come from first-hand experience, but he does not make his experiences as subject matter. Bacon efficiently presents his advice, moving logically from one point to another. He maintains his orderly and methodical writing. At the end of the essay, Bacon once more appears to have foreseen a question by showing a practical concern regarding the manners of the traveller who have returned to his native town. He seems to show his best intentions for the traveller's interests and status in a sensible way. There is no strong use of figurative language in the essay, as the subject matter is practical. The focus of the author is more on how to than on the use of language. However, use of metaphor, meaning comparison, to various instances is seen in the essay. For example, he says, he goeth to school, go hooded like little room, and entrance adamant and pricking in some flowers. With this, we end the next essay of Bacon, that is, of travel. Thank you and goodbye.